Hey everybody, Rob Maurer here to wrap up the week. It's been a relatively quiet Friday, but we do still have some news to go through, and I do want to touch on the stock, which continues to set new all-time highs, closing today at $2,049.98, up 2.4% on the day compared to the NASDAQ, up 0.4%. But the stock did fall about $40 per share in the span of 10 minutes in the last half an hour of trading. Personally, I didn't see anything specific to attribute that to. It may have just been someone exiting their position, or in the case of mid-month Fridays in particular, where options volume is a bit higher because of monthly options rather than only weekly options being available. I often speculate that the moves in the underlying asset, Tesla in this case, are due to maximizing profit from whatever positions are out there in the options market. Anyway, after close today is the record date for the stock split, so I have received some questions on this even though I did address it in a previous episode. My best understanding, even though this has yet to be confirmed from Tesla's investor relations team, is that any trades next week would essentially carry a due bill. So essentially, if you hold one share of Tesla right now and you were to sell that over the next week before the actual stock split is in place and before the 4 dividend shares are distributed, the sale of your share would just carry the due bill for those 4 additional shares. When those were distributed, they would just be transferred over to the person that you sold your share to. So brokerages will handle that behind the scenes. Nothing really changes next week. The price won't be reduced to 1/5 of where it's at today yet. That'll happen on the following Monday, August 31st. Conversely then, same thing if you were to buy a share next week, you're not just going to be short those 4 split shares. Otherwise, obviously, nobody would do any buying or selling next week. And again, that's just my best understanding of the situation, but that is based on the research that I have done. For other calendar type things, tomorrow we will actually be 1 month away on the dot to Battery Day and the shareholder meeting, assuming that doesn't get rescheduled again. I have received some questions. A lot of people got proxy voting materials earlier this week. I would, of course, encourage all shareholders to exercise their right to vote for the proposals put forward for this meeting. As for how I'm voting, I actually discussed that back on the May 29th episode if you want to go back. My thoughts are still the same, but I would point out that even if you did already vote your proxy materials at that time, you do still need to update your vote now. All right, first up in the news then is a pretty cool report from Consumer Reports on Tesla's owner satisfaction. As we have talked about a lot, this tends to be incredibly high for Tesla, pretty much always leading any sort of survey like this. Well, a Consumer Reports study has broken that down a little bit further. They've surveyed 420,000 different vehicle owners, and then they have divided those satisfaction results from the survey down to the different generations: Millennials, Gen X, Baby Boomers, and the Silent Generation. So not to bury the lead here, the Tesla Model 3 was number 1 in owner satisfaction across all of these generations. That includes the Silent Generation, which is individuals aged 75 to 92. So despite all the prognosticating and hand-wringing about Tesla's user interface and the amount of technology involved in it, sure seems to be working out just fine for owners that did not grow up with that technology. Other details of note here for Generation X, which is for individuals aged 40 to 55, Tesla Model 3 was number 1, Tesla Model S was number 2, and then the Model X just missed out on that 3rd place spot to the Audi A5, but came in at number 4. So for Gen X, Tesla took 3 of the top 4 slots for highest owner satisfaction. Obviously, the Model Y is not appearing on any of these lists because all the owners are so dissatisfied with all the trim issues. No, I'm just kidding on that, but I would assume that there just have not been enough out there yet. But it will be really fun when it does start to show up in surveys like this, especially to compare with the Model 3. As for the other age groups, for millennials, no other Teslas appear on the list, likely due to affordability. The Model 3 is the most expensive vehicle appearing in the top 10. None of the other vehicles make it above $32,000. Most are in the $20,000 range. So not surprising not to see S and X there due to the affordability. For baby boomers, the Model S took the 4th place slot. X was actually missing from this group. So I thought that was a bit surprising given how highly ranked the X was for Generation X. Maybe that's just what they're partial to, I guess. And then for the Silent Generation, the Model S came in 3rd, but again, no X in the top 10 there either. All right, next up today is a small update on Tesla's service centers. Jeremy Cooke, President of Automotive, posted today on LinkedIn, highlighting a real estate manager job position that Tesla has open, saying, quote, "Looking for exceptional commercial real estate professionals to join the team and help us open lots of service centers in the Northeast. If you feel qualified and are keen on joining us on this exciting journey, please apply," end quote. I think that's going to be exciting news for a lot of owners in that area, obviously. And I think the emphasis on continuing to expand the service infrastructure is welcome news to all. Although it does seem to me, and this is obviously very anecdotally just from the information that I read out there online, Obviously, there are still some problems, but it does seem like Tesla has made progress. I feel like I'm not seeing quite as many complaints or stories about month-long waiting periods for service. So my perception, which could be off, is that Tesla is making some progress here. I think the expansion of the mobile service fleet has helped a lot. Tesla has grown that pretty rapidly over the last 18 months or so. And if you weren't aware already, Tesla does actually disclose their store and service locations as well as the size of the mobile fleet in their quarterly updates. Unfortunately, they don't break out stores locations from service locations, but over the last couple of years, Tesla's gone from 351 at the end of Q3 2018 to 446 stores and service locations at the end of Q2 2020. So only about a 27% increase there. But as we know, last year in the first half of the year, Tesla did make the decision to close some of their stores. So it's possible that the service locations have actually grown a little bit faster than that rate. And then if we look at the mobile service fleet, I think these would just be defined by fleet units, I guess. But they went from 373 in Q3 of 2018 to more than doubling to 769 by the end of Q2 2020. I talk a lot about operating leverage, and keeping the store and service infrastructure down definitely helps Tesla generate that operating leverage, but obviously that can come at a cost if it leads to a poor customer experience. So this is something that I do keep a pretty close eye on, and I do want Tesla to continue to build out infrastructure ahead of the need of the fleet, especially when it is growing so rapidly. I'd rather have more infrastructure because we know it's going to be valuable, most likely, as long as it's in the right spot in the future, even if that does come at the expense of making the financials look a little bit less strong today. And I would say these comments apply to service more than stores. I actually don't think Tesla really needs all that many stores, but philosophically, I'd rather have an oversupply of service as Tesla continues to grow rather than an undersupply. So I hope we do see these numbers increase. It does kind of look like Tesla halted the growth of the mobile fleet during the coronavirus situation, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that for the Q3 and Q4 updates to see if that growth goes back to being more accelerated. The last thing for today, I believe, was first reported on by Reuters yesterday. Tesla is seeking the approval of the Federal Communications Commission, or FCC, for a short-range interactive motion sensing device on the inside of their vehicles. The purpose of this would be to help prevent children from being left behind if the vehicle is hot, and to also help boost theft prevention systems. While it isn't stated, I would imagine there are probably also some use cases down the road for an autonomous robo-taxi. But this is a radar-based system that Tesla says, quote, provides depth perception and can, quote unquote, see through soft materials, such as a blanket covering a child in a child restraint, end quote. Of course, we know on the 3 and on the Y, Tesla does have the interior camera, but it is just the one camera there, and that's not going to be able to detect some specific things. Tesla says that this radar system could detect, quote, micro movements like breathing patterns and heart rates, neither of which can be captured by cameras or in-seat sensors alone, end quote. Tesla also believes a system like this could optimize safety by more precisely assessing the size of a passenger, for example, to optimize airbag deployment in the case of a crash in a better way than they could with simply the weight-based in-seat sensors. So right now the FCC is seeking public commentary on this request through September 21st. So it'll be at least that long, and then I would imagine there's still probably a bit of a lead time to get the full final approval for Tesla to eventually implement something like this. I do think it sounds pretty cool though, and probably gives us an indication of where things are headed for in-car monitoring systems in terms of continuing to add more and more sensors and more features being derived from them. So that is where we will leave it for the day and for the week. I hope everybody has a great weekend. As always, thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and sign up for notifications. Make sure you're following me on Twitter at Tesla Podcast, and I'll see you on Monday for the August 24th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.